Hello and welcome to this last session of how to get an interview call for the role that you want. And here we're going to do a summary of the session that we have talked about. So, what are we going to do today? I'm your coach and mentor, Arun Singhal, with the 40 years of experience in talent development. So, what are we going to do today is to summarize the various things that we have talked about, and we looked at in this what we're going to do is we're going to talk about current processes that we have to get an interview call and what are the recommended practices and what should you do next. So we looked at our current process and we found there are two ways we approach recruiters for getting a job that you want, interview for the job that we want. We either go to portals like LinkedIn, where we apply with the CV. There's a job already posted there, and we apply with the CV or profile and wait for the response. Alternatively, we go to sites like Naukri.com with our CV, post our CV there, and we again wait for the response. So the whole thing is what we keep doing is that we keep waiting for the response. And we found that this process works only in cases where the demand is more than the supply, like a Python developer. And the ugly part of the process is that we have to keep waiting and praying that your CV gets shortlisted. And that's a very painful process. And even if your CV gets shortlisted, we can be sure of a tough competition in the next round, severely limiting chances because there are hundreds and thousands of people applying for this job because this is a public post that has already been circulating around. So we need to consider an alternate process that works not only for the roles where the demand is more than supply, but also for most of the cases where supply is more than the demand, like relationship manager, like consultants, etc., etc. And the process should also enable us not to keep waiting. We should have some control of the process, some control over life that can make sure that we get that interview call. And also, it should reduce the severity of competition that we like to face. In short, this process that we're going to talk about will help us become an early bird. You would be able to go to the recruiters and get interviewed, get a call for the interview even before the job is posted there. That's the potential of this particular process. And what does this process look like? This is a seven-step process that is proven to give 1 to 10% response rate in getting interview calls. And the seven steps by now, I think you will know by heart. Starts with identifying your strengths. Based on the strengths, you identify a couple of suitable roles. Then you list target companies where you would get these suitable roles. Then you write your value proposition. What is it that you're going to offer? Who are you and what can you do for that company? And then you reach out to these target companies. First for a 5-minute call, then you do this call and then you follow up patiently and with tact to get that interview call, right? Isn't that the process that we talked about? Great, wonderful. So let's look at each of these and see how do we identify our strengths. And we said the best way to identify your strengths are to answer following questions. What do you do better than others? What can you do better than most others? What do people like in you? What have you been complimented about? So answer these questions. Take tests on like wire character test, values in action character test, strengths at www authentic happiness, and vet these possible strengths with a mentor or a coach to know whether are you talking about false strengths or are you talking about the real strengths. Once you have your strengths identified, you need to select a couple of suitable roles. So how do you go about selecting suitable roles? So list your top 6 strengths. You might have identified either 6 or 12 or many strengths or maybe few strengths. So list your top 6 strengths. The top 6 strengths are the one. If I wake you up in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock, you'll be able to do them well. You'll be able to talk about them well. And for each of the strengths, identified what roles will best suit for this strength that you have, given your background. Then you make a list of this, review this list of suitable roles with a mentor or a person who knows this role, who has an idea of what the roles are, who's not just being a theoretical academic person. And then modify the list of roles. So get a feedback. And one of the things I talked about earlier was one best way to know whether you are suitable for those roles is to get mock interviewed for these roles. Nothing like it. The third, once you have identified the suitable roles based on your strengths, you need to make a list of target companies. Google is a great place to start. Add competitors to company that you find in Google. Look for industrial look directories. Look for databases like Fundu Data, DataGuru, etc. Once you have a list of companies, then you screen the companies on hiring opportunities. Are they hiring in numbers, or they are hiring in one-digit numbers, or one or twos, etc. And also look at what's your probability of success, and try and see if you can get about 100 or more companies listed to target. All right. Then we said we need to write your value proposition. And how do you write your value proposition? You basically, we said value, you start writing your value proposition by stating your state understanding of their needs, talent acquisition needs. And then you write what can you offer, what is the benefit, and why in one sentence again. And your value proposition, you know by now what could it look like. Develop such multiple value proposition. Ideal if you can develop six, because then you can use this to communicate 6 times to get that 5-minute call, and that can be extremely valuable in getting a 5-minute call. Once you have the value proposition, you know the companies that you want to reach out to the companies for a 5-minute call, not for an interview call. Please remember, very, very important. How do you do that? Collect email ID, phone ID, LinkedIn page of the company recruiters, identify the right person, send a small short message about your value proposition and request for a 5-minute call. And your message could read something like this, as you see on your screen, right? And we've gone through that. Wait for a week. If you get a response, wonderful, congratulate yourself, buy yourself a chocolate. If not, then you patiently say, hey, yeah, I think maybe that value proposition is not striking a chord. Let me send the second one and send the second value proposition. Try this time till you exhaust your value proposition. Its probability is that you will get some response from majority of the people. Having got the 5-minute call, you need to then do the call. And you need to do the call so well that it converts into an interview call. And we went through that very recently. How do you do the call? Once you get the response to your reach out request, schedule an audio video call as per the preference. The key thing in doing the call is to move along as per the speed and the preference of the recruiter. Call out the recruiter the scheduled time, introduce yourself in the brief, and check, is it a good time to speak? Seeking permission. People like people who seek permission. So anything that you do with the recruiter, seek permission. Patience, tact, appreciativeness. These are some of the things if you do, you will do your call well. When confirm is good time, again say how great and wonderful is it to connect with him or her. Smile is a wonderful asset if you have, and if not, you need to develop that and stay confident. Restate your understanding of their needs and ask more questions to provide detail. Listening is the greatest thing that you can do in building rapport and knowing what they're looking for. Ask clarifying questions. Probe about the requirements. Keep smiling and thanking. Don't miss an opportunity to thank and say appreciative words genuinely. So by now, if you do this, you will started getting and you will start getting reciprocated by the recruiter, as we saw. And you will start seeing him or her telling you the similar things that you say. You build a positive environment and you're getting positive responses now. The end of this doing the call, you need to say, hey ma'am, you need to make your offer if you are the right person. And say, ma'am, how would you like me to take this forward? And close the call by the next action point that when should you do that? So that's your lead into the follow-up. From there, you go into follow-up because you now know what you need to do through the last call. So call, email, text on the suggested time. Begin by introducing yourself briefly and ask, is it a good time to speak? A very good practice always to ask, is it a good time to speak? Thank appreciative. Again, a good practice. Provide or ask what you need to do. Do what you need to do in that call. And ask if anything else to do, move forward. Listen, thank appreciatively, and note the next steps and move forward. Carry the next steps patiently and appreciatively. Patience, appreciation, building a good rapport are the key to doing this. Right, so that's a summary of the process. So where do we go from here in real life? Is it only an academic exercise? No, I believe anything that we learn, we should be able to apply in life. So what you can do from here is, you can build your own working model. And I'll tell you about how to do this and test that model and refine. And then go live and actually trying to get the interview call for the jobs that you want. That's objective, right? You did this course to learn how to get an interview call And that is what you should be able to good get after doing this course, right? So how do we build working model? So a working model basically involves three things, right? We need to identify strengths. So you need to have a column as you see in your rows, as you see in your slide, list of 6 strengths, and for each strength, what are the possible suitable roles that you have. And then you need to make a list of 100 plus companies that you will target. So that's your working model. Once you have this working model, you need to test this working model, and this can come in 6 steps. You already completed probably identifying strengths, as we saw, writing a value proposition, second step. Then you have, once you have these basic things that we talked in the last slide, then you need to conduct the trial runs. You need to do 3 trial runs to see how the response is. Are you getting the kind of response that will say, yeah, I'm doing fine? Because you know what the challenge is, that you have 6 value propositions. So you need to figure out which is the best value proposition. You have list of companies and you have roles, so you need to figure out what is the best combination. You have multiple ways to communicate, through email, through LinkedIn, through text. So you need to figure out a method by which, if I communicate through LinkedIn using the second value proposition to the companies about this role, I'm getting a much better response to my satisfaction. Let me spend more time on that. So that's a value. So how do you do trial runs? So you will send your messages, the value proposition, through possibly 3 or 4 methods, where you can send email text, you can send LinkedIn messages, or you can send phone or WhatsApp text message, most likely the phone messages. So you track every week how many messages, you try all 3 of them differently to test which is the best method, which is the best medium that is working for you. You wrote the numbers down, and then you say, how many companies did you email? How many companies responded to you with a 5-minute call? How many calls were done? And how many companies are still active in your list? Similarly for LinkedIn messages, similarly for phone and WhatsApp. And this outcome will tell you what method, which row is working well, which module is working. And that will tell you your working model. And if you find your working model and refine and working well, it could end into this. You're getting the role that you wanted, the happiness that you're looking for. So great. Thank you so much for watching all the modules. It has been a very patience displayed by all of you. And that should hopefully help you get a kind of interview for the role that you're looking for. For any further details that you need, any further help, I'm happy to help you. Connect with me on my email ID at enrichmentors@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to help you in getting a job that you want. Thank you so much.